She was crying alone in the cafe when a black barista leaned in and whispered, "Don't look behind you." The rain hammered against the cafe windows like angry fists, each drop racing the others down the glass in crooked streams. Maya pressed her back against the worn leather booth, her fingers wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. The ceramic felt rough against her palms, a small anchor in a world that seemed to be spinning too fast. Her phone lay face down on the scratched wooden table, silent now after buzzing incessantly for the past hour. She couldn't bring herself to look at it again. The last message from David still burned behind her eyelids. Asterisk. "You'll regret this, Maya. You don't know what you're throwing away." Asterisk. A sob escaped her throat, quiet but raw. She quickly pressed her napkin to her eyes, hoping no one had noticed. The cafe was half empty on this dreary Tuesday afternoon, just a few college students hunched over laptops, an elderly man reading a newspaper, and the soft murmur of conversations that felt like they belonged to another world. "Another refill?" Maya looked up to find a barista standing beside her table. He was tall with kind eyes and an easy smile that didn't quite hide the concern creasing his brow. His name tag read, Jordan, in neat handwriting, and there was something about his presence that felt steady, reassuring. "I'm fine," Maya managed, her voice hoarse from crying. "Just having a rough day." Jordan glanced around the cafe casually, his movements so natural that Maya almost missed the way his jaw tightened slightly. When he looked back at her, his smile had shifted into something more serious. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice as he pretended to wipe down her table. "I don't want to alarm you, but don't look behind you." Maya's blood turned to ice water in her veins. "What?" "Your ex-boyfriend," Jordan whispered, his voice barely audible above the cafe's background noise. "Brown hair, blue jacket? He's been sitting 3 tables behind you for the last 45 minutes. Just watching." The napkin fell from Maya's trembling fingers. She started to turn her head, but Jordan's hand moved quickly to steady her coffee mug, a subtle but firm gesture that stopped her. "Don't," he said quietly. "Trust me on this." Maya's heart began to pound so hard she could hear it in her ears. "That's impossible. David doesn't even know I come here." But even as she said it, doubt crept in like a cold draft. How many times had she mentioned this little cafe to him during their 2-year relationship? How many Instagram photos had she posted from this exact booth, the one by the window with the good lighting? He ordered a black coffee. Jordan continued, his voice steady and low. "Hasn't touched it. Just sits there with this little notebook, writing things down and looking up at you every few seconds." Maya's stomach lurched. The breakup had been messy, sure, but David had seemed to accept it. Disappointed, hurt even, but he'd walked away. She thought the worst part was over, the crying, the guilt, the way her apartment felt too quiet without his constant chatter. "What kind of things?" she whispered. Jordan's expression darkened. "I can't see from here, but he's been writing for a while. Every time you move, when you checked your phone, when you wiped your eyes, he makes a note." The cafe suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in around her. Maya fought the urge to bolt from her seat, to run screaming into the rain. Instead, she forced herself to breathe slowly, to think. "Maybe he's just processing the breakup too," she said, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. "People grieve differently." Jordan studied her face carefully. "How long ago did you two break up?" 3 weeks. The admission felt like a confession. "And how many times have you been to this cafe since then?" Maya thought back, counting the days she'd sought refuge in this quiet corner spot. Maybe 8 or 9 times? Something shifted in Jordan's expression, a shadow of recognition that made her chest tighten. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I work here 5 days a week, and I've seen him here 7 of those times. Always when you're here. Always in a spot where he can see you but you can't see him." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles going white. No, that's not. David isn't like that. He's hurt, maybe a little angry, but he wouldn't. I thought the same thing at first. Jordan interrupted gently. Coincidence happens, right? Broken hearts gravitate toward the same coffee shops. But then I started paying attention. He paused, glancing over her shoulder again before meeting her eyes. Yesterday, when you got that phone call and stepped outside to take it, he followed you out. Stood just around the corner, close enough to hear but far enough away that you wouldn't notice. When you came back in, he waited exactly 3 minutes before returning to his table. Maya's vision blurred, and not from tears this time. The room seemed to tilt sideways as pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known existed began clicking into place. The weird feeling she'd had lately of being watched. The way she'd started checking over her shoulder on her walks home. The strange sensation that someone had been in her apartment while she was at work, though nothing was missing. I need to leave, she whispered. Okay, Jordan said calmly. But let's be smart about it. I'm going to go back behind the counter, make it look normal. Can you sit here for just 2 more minutes while I figure out the best way to handle this? Maya nodded, though every instinct screamed at her to run. Jordan gave her shoulder a gentle, reassuring squeeze before walking back toward the coffee machines, his movements casual and unhurried. She stared down at her cold coffee, forcing herself not to turn around. But she could feel him there now, David's presence like a weight pressing against her spine. How had she not sensed it before? How long had he been watching her cry, taking notes on her pain like some kind of twisted researcher? Her phone buzzed against the table. With shaking fingers, Maya flipped it over. A new message from David, asterisk. You look beautiful today. I love that blue sweater on you. Asterisk. Maya's blood turned to ice. She was wearing a blue sweater. The same blue sweater she'd thrown on this morning without thinking, the one David had bought her for their 6-month anniversary. The one he could only know she was wearing if he could see her right now. Another message appeared, asterisk. Are you ignoring me? That's not very nice, Maya. We need to talk. Asterisk. Then another, asterisk. I know you can see these messages. I can see your phone lighting up from here. Asterisk. Maya's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. She looked toward the counter where Jordan was preparing someone else's order, but his eyes found hers immediately. He must have seen the terror on her face because he abandoned the espresso machine and started walking back toward her table. Her phone buzzed again. Asterisk. Tell your new boyfriend to mind his own business. This is between you and me. Asterisk. Maya's world tilted completely off its axis. David wasn't just watching her. He was watching Jordan too. He was watching everything, cataloging every interaction, every moment of her life that was supposed to be private. Jordan reached her table just as another message came through, asterisk. We're going to talk, Maya. Today. Whether you want to or not. Asterisk. Jordan slid into the booth across from Maya without asking, his movement fluid and protective. He kept his voice low, his eyes never leaving her face. This isn't the first time I've seen him. Jordan said, his words careful and measured. I need you to listen to me, okay? Really listen. Maya nodded, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles ached. The messages had stopped coming, which somehow felt worse than the constant buzzing. 3 weeks ago, when you first started coming here, I thought it was sweet. Jordan continued. Broken-hearted girl, broken-hearted guy, both finding comfort in the same coffee shop. It happens all the time. He paused, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. Maya noticed his fingers trembling slightly, and realized he was more shaken by this than he was letting on. But then I started noticing patterns. He never comes in unless you're already here. Never. I've worked 6-hour shifts where he doesn't show up at all, and then you walk in and suddenly there he is, 10 minutes later. Maya's throat felt dry as sandpaper. Maybe he just gets coffee at the same time as his ex by pure coincidence 7 times in 3 weeks? Jordan's voice carried a weight that made her stomach drop. Maya, I've been working in coffee shops for 4 years. I've seen a lot of post-breakup drama. This isn't drama. This is something else. Jordan glanced toward the counter where his coworker was handling the few customers, then leaned closer. 2 days ago, I watched him for an entire hour. He had this composition notebook, black and white speckled, the kind kids use in school. Every time you moved, he wrote something down. When you answered your phone, he wrote. When you laughed at something on your laptop, he wrote. When you went to the bathroom, he timed it. The cafe felt like it was spinning around Maya. She pressed her palms flat against the table, trying to ground herself. Timed it? Checked his watch when you got up, checked it again when you came back. Then wrote down the number. Who does that, Maya? Who times someone's bathroom breaks? Jordan's voice dropped even lower, barely a whisper now. And the way he stares. It's not the way someone looks at a person they're missing. It's the way someone studies a problem they're trying to solve. Maya felt bow rise in her throat. What kind of problem? That's what scares me. Jordan pulled out his phone and showed her a photo he'd taken discreetly from behind the counter. Maya could see David in profile, hunched over his notebook, pen poised above the page. Even in the grainy image, there was something unsettling about his posture, the intense focus of his attention. Look at his face. Jordan said softly. Does that look like someone who's sad about a breakup? Maya stared at the photo, and her blood chilled. David's expression wasn't one of heartbreak or longing. It was calculating, cold, almost clinical. Like he was conducting an experiment, and she was the specimen. Yesterday, when you left, I watched him through the window. Jordan continued. He didn't follow you immediately. He sat there for another 15 minutes, writing furiously in that notebook. Then he made a phone call. I could see his lips moving, but couldn't hear what he was saying. When he hung up, he looked satisfied. Like something had gone according to plan. Maya's phone buzzed. Both she and Jordan froze. Asterisk. Your barista friend seems very concerned about you. Does he know you like your coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of vanilla creamer? Does he know you bite your bottom lip when you're concentrating? Does he know you always sit in the same booth? Asterisk. How does he know what we're talking about? Maya's voice cracked. He can't hear us from over there. Jordan's face went pale. He slowly turned to scan the cafe, his trained eye taking in every corner, every patron. When he turned back to Maya, his expression was grim. He's not just watching you here. He's been watching you everywhere. Long enough to know your habits, your preferences, your routines. Another message, asterisk. Ask Jordan about the red Toyota that's been parked outside your apartment building. Ask him if he's noticed it following the same route you take to work. Asterisk. Maya's hands began to shake violently. She'd seen that red Toyota. In her peripheral vision, in her rearview mirror, always just far enough away that she'd convinced herself it was coincidence. Jordan, she whispered, have you ever seen a red Toyota following me? Jordan's expression answered before his words did. 3 times that I've noticed. Once when you left here last Friday, once when I was walking to work and saw you at the crosswalk on 5th Street, and once when I was getting groceries and spotted you in the parking lot at Mason's Market. Oh God. Maya buried her face in her hands. How did I not see this? How was I so blind? Because you trusted him. Jordan said gently. Because people in healthy relationships don't expect to be hunted like prey when they end. The weight of that word, hunted, settled over Maya like a heavy blanket. That's exactly what this felt like. Not heartbreak, not even anger. This was predatory. He's been mapping my life. She realized aloud. Learning my schedule, my favorite places, my routines. For 3 weeks. Jordan confirmed. At minimum. But Maya, I think it's been longer than that. Her phone buzzed again, asterisk. I know you're scared. But you don't need to be. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you. From making the biggest mistake of your life. Asterisk. Then asterisk. From people who don't really know you the way I do. Asterisk. And finally, asterisk. We belong together, Maya. Deep down you know that. Stop fighting it. Asterisk. Maya looked up at Jordan, tears streaming down her cheeks. I broke up with him because he was getting too possessive. Too controlling. I thought leaving would make it stop. Instead, it made it worse. Jordan said quietly. Because now he doesn't have legitimate access to your life anymore. So he's taking illegitimate access. The realization hit Maya like a physical blow. David hadn't accepted their breakup. He'd simply changed tactics. Instead of controlling her as her boyfriend, he was controlling her as her stalker. And the most terrifying part? She had no idea how long he'd been watching, how much he knew, or what he planned to do with all that carefully catalogued information. Jordan, she whispered, what am I going to do? Before Jordan could answer, Maya's phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen, accompanied by a photo of them together from happier times, or what she thought were happier times. Now she wondered if even then, behind his smile, he'd been taking notes. The phone rang and rang, the sound cutting through the cafe's gentle ambience like a knife. Other patrons were starting to look over, drawn by the piercing noise and Maya's obvious distress. Don't answer it, Jordan said firmly. But the ringing stopped on its own, only to start again immediately. Then again. Each time David's smiling face appeared on her screen, Maya felt a little more of her safety slip away. He's not going to stop, she whispered. Jordan's eyes hardened with determination. Then we need to make him. No. Maya shook her head violently, her voice rising above the cafe's gentle hum. No, you don't understand. David isn't dangerous. He's hurting. This is all some terrible misunderstanding. Jordan leaned back slightly, his expression patient but firm. Maya. He brought me soup when I was sick. She interrupted, her words tumbling over each other in desperation. He remembered my mom's birthday. He cried when we watched that documentary about abandoned dogs. People like that they don't do this kind of thing. People like what? Jordan asked quietly. Violent people. Dangerous people. David teaches 3rd grade, for God's sake. He volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. Maya's voice cracked. You're making him sound like some kind of monster, but he's not. He's just processing the breakup in his own way. Jordan pulled his phone out again, but instead of showing her another photo, he opened his notes app. Maya watched his thumbs move quickly across the screen. Okay, he said, not looking up. Let's talk about processing. When's the last time you went grocery shopping? Maya blinked, thrown by the sudden change in topic. What? Grocery shopping. When was the last time? Saturday morning. Why? Which store? Mason's Market on Oak Street. Jordan, I don't see what. What time? Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks. Around 10:30. But I still don't. Jordan turned his phone toward her. On the screen was a detailed list. Asterisk Saturday 10:30 a.m. Mason's Market. Red Toyota in parking lot, license plate partially visible, GH for something. Subject purchased milk, bread, bananas, frozen pizza. Exited through north door. Sat in car for 3 minutes before driving home via Maple Street route. Asterisk. Maya's blood turned to ice water. How do you know all that? Because I was there too, remember? Getting groceries. I saw the red Toyota. I saw you pause at your car and look around like you felt someone watching you. Jordan's voice was gentle but relentless. And I saw David sitting 3 cars away, writing in that same notebook. That doesn't mean. Maya. Jordan's voice cut through her protests. You bought those exact items. You did exit through the north door. You did sit in your car for 3 minutes. I timed it because I was worried about you. And you did take Maple Street home because I could see you turning that direction when I left the parking lot. The walls of the cafe seemed to be closing in around her. Maya pressed her palms against her temples, trying to stop the world from spinning. Friday night. Jordan continued, consulting his phone again. Did you order Chinese food? Maya nodded mutely. Golden Dragon on 5th Street? Another nod. Did the delivery guy have trouble finding your apartment? Maya's breath caught in her throat. The delivery driver had seemed confused, said he'd been given very specific instructions about which entrance to use and which parking spot to avoid. She thought it was odd but hadn't questioned it. David called the restaurant. Jordan said quietly, "I know because I was working a double shift that day, got off at 9, and stopped by Golden Dragon for dinner." David was there, on his phone with someone, giving very detailed directions to your apartment complex, down to which parking spots have the best view of your front door. "Stop." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Wednesday morning you left for work 15 minutes later than usual. Thursday you took a different route home, down Elm Street instead of your usual path. Yesterday you stopped at the pharmacy and bought." "Stop." Maya's shout turned heads throughout the cafe. Several patrons looked over with concern, and the elderly man with the newspaper frowned in their direction. Jordan lowered his voice to barely above a whisper. "I'm not trying to scare you, Maya. I'm trying to save your life. Because what I just described, I only witnessed maybe 20% of it. David has been documenting 100%. Maya felt tears burning her eyes, but these weren't the soft tears of heartbreak she'd been crying earlier. These were tears of terror, of a reality she'd been desperately trying to deny crashing down around her. "The night we broke up," she whispered. He seemed so calm. He just nodded and said he understood. He hugged me goodbye and left. I thought he was handling it well. "What did you fight about?" Maya closed her eyes, remembering. He wanted me to move in with him. But not just move in, he had this whole plan. He'd already picked out which apartment we'd get, had spreadsheets about our combined finances, had researched the best route from there to my job. He'd planned our entire future without asking me what I wanted. And when you said no, he said I was being irrational. That I was letting fear of commitment ruin the best thing in my life. He had answers for every concern I raised, like he'd already anticipated my objections and prepared counterarguments. Maya opened her eyes, meeting Jordan's gaze. It felt like being cross-examined by a lawyer, not having a conversation with my boyfriend. Jordan nodded grimly. Controllers don't suddenly become reasonable when they lose control. They escalate. Maya's phone, which had been mercifully quiet for the past few minutes, suddenly buzzed with a flurry of new messages. Both she and Jordan watched as the screen lit up again and again. Asterisk. I can see you're getting upset. Your new friend is filling your head with lies about me. Asterisk. Asterisk. I know you think I've been following you, but I haven't. I've been protecting you. Asterisk. Asterisk. There are things you don't know, Maya. Dangerous things. Bad people who want to hurt you. Asterisk. Asterisk. I've been keeping you safe, and this is how you repay me? Asterisk. Asterisk. Check your apartment when you get home. Check your bedroom window. Check the lock on your back door. Then tell me I'm the one you should be afraid of. Asterisk. Maya's hands shook as she read the messages. What does that mean? What's wrong with my apartment? Jordan's expression darkened. Maya, do you have your keys with you right now? She fumbled in her purse, her fingers searching frantically. Yes, they're right. Her hand closed around empty space. Then searched again. Then dumped the entire contents of her purse onto the table. No keys. I had them when I came in, she whispered, staring at the scattered contents of her purse. I locked my car. I remember locking my car. Jordan was already standing. We need to call the police. Now. But maybe I just... Maya. Jordan's voice was sharper than she'd ever heard it. Your ex-boyfriend has been stalking you for weeks. He knows your schedule, your routes, your habits. He's been timing your bathroom breaks and documenting your grocery purchases. And now your keys are missing. Maya looked up at him, the full weight of her situation finally crashing over her like a cold wave. He's been in my apartment, she whispered. Probably more than once. Jordan confirmed grimly. Maya's phone buzzed one more time. Asterisk. Home sweet home, Maya. We have so much to talk about. Asterisk. Maya? The voice came from directly behind her, warm and familiar and absolutely terrifying. Maya's entire body went rigid as David's hand settled gently on her shoulder, his touch as light as a feather but feeling heavy as a stone. "I thought that was you," David continued, his voice carrying that same easy charm that had first attracted her 2 years ago. "What a wonderful coincidence." Jordan remained standing, his posture tense but controlled. Maya could see his jaw working, his hands clenched at his sides. Other cafe patrons continued their conversations, oblivious to the danger that had just walked up to their table wearing khakis and a friendly smile. "David." Maya's voice came out strangled. She couldn't bring herself to turn around, couldn't bear to see his face while knowing what she now knew about him. "Aren't you going to look at me?" David's hand squeezed her shoulder slightly, a gesture that would have seemed affectionate to anyone watching. "We haven't seen each other in so long." 3 weeks isn't that long," Maya managed. David laughed, the sound light and musical. "It feels like a lifetime to me. I've missed you so much." Finally, Maya forced herself to turn. David looked exactly the same as always, neat brown hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the soft smile that had once made her heart skip beats. If she hadn't known about the notebook, about the red Toyota, about her missing keys, she might have been fooled by how normal he appeared. "Mind if I sit down?" David asked, already moving toward the empty chair beside Maya's booth. "I'd love to catch up." "Actually," Jordan interjected smoothly, "this table is reserved for customers only. Can I get you something to drink?" David's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered behind his eyes as he looked up at Jordan. "Just a black coffee. I'll have it right here with my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Maya corrected, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," David said easily, settling into the chair anyway. "Sorry, force of habit. We were together for so long, sometimes I forget we're taking this little break." The word break hit Maya like a slap. Not break up. Break. As if their relationship was just temporarily paused, waiting for her to come to her senses. Jordan hadn't moved. "Sir, I'll need to ask you to order from the counter like everyone else." "I'm fine right here," David replied, his tone still pleasant but with an edge that made Maya's skin crawl. "Maya and I have some important things to discuss." "We really don't," Maya said, finding a shred of courage. "David, I meant what I said 3 weeks ago. We're done." David's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "Come on, sweetheart. Don't say things like that. You know you don't mean it." "I do mean it." "No, you don't." David's voice remained calm, reasonable, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. "You're just confused right now. All those people filling your head with ideas about what you should want instead of listening to your heart." Maya felt Jordan tense beside her. The barista stepped closer to their table, his professional demeanor intact but his eyes sharp. "Sir, I'm going to have to insist." "Insist on what?" David turned his full attention to Jordan, and Maya saw something in his expression that made her stomach clench with fear. "That I can't talk to the woman I love? That I can't sit in a public cafe?" "You can sit anywhere you'd like after you order from the counter," Jordan replied evenly. "House policy." David studied Jordan for a long moment, his head tilted like he was examining a particularly interesting insect. "You know, I've seen you before. You work here a lot, don't you? Every weekday. And you've been watching Maya." "I've noticed." The temperature in the cafe seemed to drop several degrees. Maya watched the exchange with growing horror, realizing that David's calm exterior was just a mask over something much darker. "I watch all our regular customers," Jordan replied carefully, "making sure everyone feels welcome and safe." "Safe," David repeated, tasting the word. "That's interesting. Safe from what?" "From harassment." The word hung in the air between them like a thrown gauntlet. Maya held her breath, waiting for David's reaction. For a moment, his mask slipped completely, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. Then the smile returned, brighter than ever. "Harassment?" David laughed. "Is that what this looks like to you?" A man talking to his girlfriend in a coffee shop? Ex-girlfriend. Jordan corrected firmly. Right. Ex-girlfriend. David turned back to Maya, his eyes boring into hers. Tell him, Maya. Tell your friend here that I would never hurt you. That everything I do because I love you. Maya felt trapped between them, caught in a current she couldn't swim against. Part of her, the part that had loved David for 2 years, wanted to smooth things over, to defuse the situation with agreement. But Jordan's evidence echoed in her mind, the notebook, the Toyota, the timing of her bathroom breaks. David, she said carefully, I think you should leave. David's expression didn't change, but Maya saw his hands clenched slightly on the table. I don't think that's what you really want. It is. Maya. David leaned forward, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper that somehow felt more threatening than shouting. I know you've been struggling since our breakup. I know you've been crying, coming here day after day, trying to make sense of what happened between us. Maya's blood chilled. He was describing exactly what she'd been doing, but the way he said it made it sound like he'd been watching every tear. I know you're confused right now. David continued. But I also know you still love me. Deep down, you know we belong together. You know I'm the only one who truly understands you. Sir. Jordan's voice cut through David's monologue like a blade. You need to leave. Now. David slowly turned to face Jordan again, and Maya saw something in his eyes that made her want to run screaming from the cafe. Or what? David asked softly. The question hung in the air like a threat. Around them, other customers continued their conversations, but Maya noticed a few people glancing over, sensing the tension even if they couldn't understand its source. Jordan pulled out his phone. Or I call the police and report a customer who's refusing to follow cafe policy and making other patrons uncomfortable. Making them uncomfortable? David's voice rose slightly, drawing more attention. I'm sitting here having a conversation with my girlfriend. If that makes people uncomfortable, maybe they need to examine their own prejudices. Ex-girlfriend. Maya whispered again, but her voice was lost in the growing tension. David stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Maya flinched backward, but his smile remained perfectly in place. You know what? He said cheerfully. You're absolutely right. This isn't the place for the conversation Maya and I need to have. Too many distractions. He looked down at Maya, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her feel pinned like a butterfly to a board. I'll see you later, sweetheart. When we can talk properly. At home. The emphasis on the last word made Maya's blood freeze. David knew she'd figured out about her missing keys. He was telling her exactly where he'd be waiting. Have a wonderful rest of your day, David said to Jordan, his tone bright and friendly. Then he walked away, stopping at the counter to order his black coffee after all, chatting pleasantly with Jordan's coworker like nothing had happened. Maya watched him through the window as he settled at a table on the patio, his black composition notebook already open in front of him. Even from inside she could see him writing, his pen moving steadily across the page as he documented whatever had just transpired. Maya, Jordan said quietly, sliding into the booth across from her. We're calling the police right now. But Maya couldn't stop staring at David through the window. He looked up from his notebook and caught her eye, raising his coffee cup in a cheerful toast. Then he mouthed 2 words that made her soul freeze. See you. Back exit. Jordan said urgently, already moving around the table. There's a service door behind the kitchen that leads to the alley. We can get you out without him seeing. Maya nodded numbly, gathering her scattered belongings with shaking hands. Her purse felt impossibly light without her keys, a constant reminder that David had already invaded the most private spaces of her life. Jordan guided her through the cafe, past the espresso machine and into the narrow kitchen area. His coworker, a young woman with purple streaks in her hair, looked up from washing dishes. Everything okay, Jordan? Called the police. Jordan said without slowing down. Tell them we have a stalking situation. Customer refusing to leave, making threats. License plate on the red Toyota outside is GH4, something. Get them whatever details you can. The service door opened onto a narrow alley that smelled of dumpsters and wet concrete. Maya gulped the cool air, feeling like she could breathe properly for the first time in an hour. My car's parked on the street, she said. But if David's watching, he's still on the patio. We'll go around the block, approach from the other direction. Jordan pulled out his phone. What's your address? I'm calling this in while we walk. Maya rattled off her apartment complex details while Jordan spoke to the 911 dispatcher. As they hurried down the alley, she found herself checking over her shoulder every few steps, expecting to see David's familiar figure materializing behind them. They emerged onto Oak Street 3 blocks from the cafe, and Maya spotted her silver Honda immediately. But as they approached, Jordan suddenly grabbed her arm. Wait. He pointed to her car's windshield. Tucked under the wiper blade was a folded piece of paper. Don't touch it, Jordan said. Evidence. But Maya was already reaching for it, her hands moving before her brain could stop them. She unfolded the paper with trembling fingers. Maya, I know you're scared, but you don't need to be. I've been taking care of things while you've been away. Your apartment was so vulnerable anyone could have gotten in. Lucky for you, I've been keeping watch. Check your bedroom when you get home. I left you a present to show how much I care. David P.S. Your spare key was exactly where you always keep it. You should really find a better hiding spot. Maya's legs gave out. She sank against her car, the note fluttering to the ground. He's been in my apartment, she whispered. He's been inside my home. Jordan crouched beside her, his face grim. Maya, I don't think you should go home tonight. But I have to see. I have to know what he did. The police? No. Maya struggled to her feet, surprising herself with her sudden determination. I need to see what he's done. I need to understand how long this has been going on. 20 minutes later, they stood outside Maya's apartment complex. The red Toyota was nowhere to be seen, but Maya found herself studying every parked car, every shadow, every potential hiding spot. Police should be here soon, Jordan said, checking his phone. We can wait for them. But Maya was already walking toward her building, driven by a desperate need to reclaim some sense of control over her violated life. Jordan hurried to keep up with her. Her front door looked normal from the outside. No signs of forced entry, no obvious damage. Maya tried her doorbell, though she knew it was pointless without her keys. Spare key, she muttered, walking to the decorative plant pot beside her door. Her fingers found the small magnetic box immediately, just as they had hundreds of times before. But now it was empty. He took it, she said hollowly. He took my spare key and left me that note so I'd know he took it. Jordan tried the door handle. It turned easily. Maya, he left it unlocked. They stepped inside together, and Maya immediately knew something was wrong. The apartment felt different, not messy or obviously disturbed, but somehow tainted, like the air itself had been contaminated by David's presence. Living room looks normal, Jordan observed. It did. Nothing seemed to be missing or moved. But Maya noticed things that weren't there before. A coffee mug in the sink that she didn't remember using, a slight indentation in her couch cushions, the faint scent of David's cologne lingering in the air. They moved through the apartment methodically. The kitchen revealed more subtle signs of intrusion, items in the refrigerator rearranged, a different brand of milk than what Maya bought, her coffee canister refilled with the expensive beans David preferred. He's been living here, Maya realized with growing horror. Not just visiting. Living here. The bathroom was worse. Her medicine cabinet had been reorganized, her prescription bottles lined up in alphabetical order, something David used to do in his own apartment. A men's razor sat on the counter beside her toiletries, along with shaving cream and aftershave. But it was the bedroom that made Maya's knees buckle. The bed had been made with military precision, the corners sharp and tight in a way Maya never bothered with. On her nightstand sat a framed photo she'd never seen before, David and Maya together at a restaurant, taken from across the room with a telephoto lens. Maya remembered that dinner. It was from 6 months ago, but she'd never known anyone was photographing them. Maya! Jordan's voice was tight with concern. Look at this. He was standing at her dresser, where David's note had promised she'd find her. Present. The top drawer was open, revealing Maya's most intimate belongings, but they'd been supplemented with items she'd never purchased. Lingerie in David's favorite colors, perfume she'd never worn, jewelry that wasn't hers. But most disturbing was the small stack of photographs arranged carefully on top of everything else. Pictures of Maya taken through her own bedroom window. Maya sleeping. Maya getting dressed. Maya in moments she'd believed were completely private. Each photo was dated and time-stamped in David's neat handwriting, going back months before their breakup. "Oh God," Maya whispered, sinking onto the bed. "He's been watching me sleep. He's been watching me through my own window." Jordan was examining the photos with the careful attention of someone gathering evidence. "Maya, some of these are from when you were still together. He was spying on you even then." "Why?" Maya's voice broke. "Why would he do this? If we were together, why did he need to spy on me?" "Because it was never about the relationship," Jordan said quietly. "It was about control. About possession. You were never his girlfriend to him. You were his property." Maya looked around her bedroom, her sanctuary that had been violated and contaminated, and felt something fundamental shift inside her. The fear was still there, cold and sharp in her chest, but it was joined by something else now. Something harder and angrier. "He thinks he owns me," she said, her voice growing stronger. "He thinks he can just take over my life, move into my space, watch me like I'm some kind of exhibit in his personal museum." "Maya." "No." She stood up, her hands clenching into fists. "I've spent 3 weeks crying over losing him, and he's spent 3 weeks turning my life into his twisted fantasy. While I was mourning what I thought was a normal relationship, he was making himself at home in my apartment and taking pictures of me sleeping." Jordan watched her carefully, recognizing the shift in her demeanor. "He wants to talk?" Maya continued, her voice rising. "He wants to explain how this is all about love and protection and keeping me safe? Fine. Let's talk." "Maya, that's not safe. Neither is running." Maya turned to face Jordan, her eyes blazing with newfound determination. "He knows where I live, where I work, where I buy groceries, where I get coffee. He has keys to my apartment and photos of my most private moments. Running isn't going to solve this." "Then what are you suggesting?" Maya looked around her violated bedroom one more time, her gaze settling on the stack of photographs that proved just how deep David's obsession ran. "I'm suggesting we stop letting him control the narrative," she said firmly. "It's time for David to learn that I'm not his property. I'm not his exhibit. I'm not his victim." She pulled out her phone and began typing a message. "What are you doing?" Jordan asked. Maya's fingers flew across the screen as she composed her response. Asterisk. "David. You want to talk? Let's talk. Café. 1 hour. Come alone." Asterisk. She hit send before Jordan could stop her. "Maya, this is insane." Her phone buzzed immediately. Asterisk. "I knew you'd come to your senses. See you soon, sweetheart." Asterisk. Maya stared at the message, her resolve hardening like steel. "No," she said quietly. "You'll see me. But not the version of me you think you know." The police arrived at Maya's apartment as she and Jordan were gathering the evidence: photographs, David's personal items, the threatening notes. Officer Martinez, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, documented everything with methodical precision. "This is extensive stalking," she said, photographing the surveillance pictures with her phone. "The fact that he had keys, was living here intermittently, taking photographs through your window. We have enough for multiple charges." "But will it stop him?" Maya asked. Officer Martinez looked up from her notepad. "Ma'am, I have to advise against any direct contact with your stalker. The safest thing The safest thing would have been him not stalking me for months. Maya interrupted. But we're past safe now. I'm not running from my own life anymore. 45 minutes later, Maya walked back into the cafe with Officer Martinez and a plainclothes detective following at a distance. Jordan had already briefed his coworkers and cleared the back corner booth where David had been sitting that afternoon. Several patrons had been quietly asked to relocate, creating a buffer zone around the confrontation area. David was already there, sitting in the same spot by the window, his black notebook open in front of him. He looked up when Maya entered, his face lighting up with that familiar smile that now made her skin crawl. "There's my girl," he said warmly, standing as she approached. "I knew you'd come around." "Sit down, David," Maya said, her voice steady and cold. David's smile faltered slightly at her tone, but he complied. "Maya, I can explain everything. I know how it must look. Like you've been stalking me for months? Taking pictures of me sleeping? Living in my apartment without my knowledge?" Maya remained standing, looking down at him. "How exactly should it look?" "I was protecting you," David said, his voice taking on the reasonable, patient tone she remembered from their relationship. "Maya, you're so trusting, so naive about the dangers out there. Someone had to keep you safe." "From what?" "From people who would take advantage of you. From men who don't really know you, who don't love you the way I do." David's eyes flicked briefly toward the counter where Jordan was working. "From baristas who fill your head with ideas about independence when what you really need is someone who understands you." Maya pulled out her phone and set it on the table between them. The voice recording app was already running. "Tell me about the photographs, David." "What photographs?" "The ones you took through my bedroom window. The ones dated from 6 months ago, while we were still together." David's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold underneath. Then the smile returned, smaller now, more forced. "Maya, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years." Maya leaned forward slightly. "You were spying on me while we were dating. Taking pictures of me sleeping, cataloging my every move, planning our entire future without consulting me. This didn't start after our breakup, did it? I was documenting our love story. You were treating me like a research subject." Maya's voice remained calm, but Jordan could see her hands shaking slightly. "Tell me about the notebook, David. What did you write about me today?" David's hand moved protectively over the composition book. "It's private." "Nothing about me is private from you, apparently. So show me." "Maya, let's not do this here. Let's go home, man. My home. Where you've been living without my permission. Where you organized my medicine cabinet and bought groceries with my stolen key." Maya's voice was rising now, attracting attention from other patrons. "Where you've been sleeping in my bed and watching me through my own windows." David's facade finally cracked completely. The reasonable, loving boyfriend disappeared, replaced by something sharp and desperate. "I did all of that for you," he hissed. "Everything I did was because I love you more than anyone else ever could. I know things about you that you don't even know about yourself. I've studied you, Maya. I've learned your patterns, your needs, your fears. I know what makes you happy. Spying on me makes you happy," Maya said. "Controlling me makes you happy. But none of it was ever about me, was it?" David slammed his hand on the table, making the coffee cups jump. Several patrons looked over nervously. "It was always about you. Every single thing I did was about loving you better than anyone else could." "No," Maya said quietly. "It was about owning me." She reached across the table and grabbed the notebook before David could stop her. His handwriting filled page after page, detailed schedules of her movements, descriptions of her emotional states, plans for getting her back, analysis of Jordan's interference, and increasingly violent fantasies about what he would do to anyone who tried to steal her. Maya read aloud from the most recent entry. Subject showed resistance to reconciliation. Barista continues to poison her against me. May need to eliminate external influences to restore proper dynamic. She looked up at David. "Eliminate external influences?" David lunged across the table, trying to grab the notebook back, but Maya held it out of reach. His mask was completely gone now, his face twisted with rage. You have no right to read that. It's private. It's mine. Like I'm yours? Maya stood up, holding the notebook high. Like my apartment is yours? Like my life is yours? Yes. David shouted, standing as well. Yes, you're mine. You've always been mine. I made you into who you are. Without me, you're nothing. The cafe had gone completely silent. Every patron was staring at their table now, finally seeing David for what he really was. Officer Martinez stepped forward from her corner booth. David Chen, she said clearly, you're under arrest for stalking, breaking and entering, harassment, and violation of privacy. David's head snapped toward the officer, his expression one of complete shock. What? No, you don't understand. She's my girlfriend. We're just having a disagreement. I'm not your girlfriend, Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent cafe. I was never your girlfriend. I was your victim. But not anymore. As Officer Martinez placed handcuffs on David's wrists, he looked back at Maya with an expression of pure fury. This isn't over, he snarled. You can't live without me. You'll see. When you're all alone and miserable, you'll remember what you threw away. Maya looked at him calmly, feeling lighter than she had in months. David, I've been alone and miserable for 2 years. It just took me this long to realize it was because of you, not without you. As the police led David away, he twisted back to look at her one more time. I know where you live, Maya. I know everything about you. This changes nothing. You're right, Maya called after him. You do know where I live. It's the address they'll put on the restraining order. The apartment where all your belongings will be boxed up for police evidence. The home you'll never be allowed near again. The cafe door closed behind David and the officers, leaving Maya standing alone by the window table. Around her, the normal sounds of conversation gradually resumed as patrons returned to their coffee and laptops. Jordan appeared at her side, offering her a fresh cup of tea. How do you feel? Maya sank into the booth, suddenly exhausted but oddly peaceful. She looked around the cafe, the place where she'd cried over losing David, where Jordan had first warned her about the danger she couldn't see, where David had tried one last time to reclaim control over her life. Free, she said simply. For the first time in 2 years, I feel completely free. Outside, the rain had stopped, and sunlight was breaking through the clouds, streaming through the cafe windows and illuminating the spot where Maya sat. She pulled out her phone and deleted David's contact information, blocked his number, and then did something she hadn't done in weeks. She smiled. Same time tomorrow? Jordan asked with a grin. Maya laughed, a real laugh, bright and genuine. Actually, I think I'll try that new bookstore cafe across town. It's time to change up my routine. Jordan nodded approvingly. Good for you. But hey, if you ever want to come back here, you're always welcome. The coffee's better, and we have excellent security. Maya stood up, gathering her purse and David's notebook full of evidence. As she walked toward the door, she paused and looked back at the booth where she'd spent so many afternoons mourning a relationship that had never been real. Then she walked outside into the sunshine, leaving her past behind and stepping into a future that was finally, completely her own.